you ever speak to me like that again, better be wearing a cup.
Baby steps.
One break, I'm in
Okay, friends, let's everybody take your positions, please. Here we go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, rolling. Dave!
And
Dave Unchained!
welcome to Dave and Dave Unchained, a Van Halen podcast. I'm Dave.
And I'm quiet, Dave.
Oh, he's living up to his name already.
That will be the first and last time.
The first and last time. And this is episode 49, Dave, and we are entering 2020. This is the first episode of the new decade.
Yay!
We'll see if you behave.
See if I make it.
See if you make it. Well, we made it back from Vegas. Dave and I had an incredible time, and that is going to be the focus of this episode. Of course, we're going to get into all the details about the David Lee Roth residency at the House of Blues at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. Dave and I, we got on a plane and we ventured across the country just for you guys. And we met up with our listeners and we saw 2 shows. And we're going to have a full breakdown of everything that occurred, including all of Dave's dirty deeds. God knows. But before we do that, we're going to get into some Van Halen news.
Van Halen.
News! All right, we're going to do this right at the top.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Happy birthday to you.
Well, there's nothing like David Lee Roth singing happy birthday to you, and it's a big happy 65th birthday to Eddie Van Halen. Eddie, you influenced generations of guitarists. Although many have come after you, no one can possibly take your place. We hope you're well, Eddie, wherever you are. Stay strong, be well, and we all await your next move. All hail the king! All right, Dave. Well, this is interesting. Ultimate Classic Rock came out with an article that stopped my heart. With the headline was 2019 the year Van Halen disappeared, and the interesting picture that they had was a picture of the band singing Happy Trails. I think it was circa 1984. And it had the pixely effect like at the end of, for the Avengers, where they start disappearing with the little fluttery things, like their body starts disappearing. And I was like, oh my God. It was an interesting article for sure. And it said Van Halen is ranked as the 20th best-selling act of all time with 86 million albums sold, but pointed out 3 big things where it caused Van Halen to disappear. Number 1 was David Lee Roth not getting recognized by fans in Vegas who were actually listening to his music at the time. That was shocking. Of course, we remember when Eddie Van Halen went unrecognized by hard rock fans at the Tool show. Someone asked him to take their picture, and Eddie would be the cameraman. He didn't ask for a picture with Eddie, but rather if he could take a shot of him with the stage in the background. And number 3, a major pop star, Billie Eilish. I mispronounced her name the last time, Billie Eilish. I apologize to Miss Eilish. So the pop star said she had never heard of Van Halen on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. They really haven't done a good job keeping Van Halen in the public eye. These are 3 big strikes that occurred throughout the year. We all know that no one is really caretaking the legacy, with the exception of you and I, Dave, of course. they are not putting out any new releases. They're not putting out any vintage releases. Dave's running around calling the band finished. I can't say I blame them. What do you think of this, Dave, when you read this?
It just sounded like a piece to grab headlines.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, because quite frankly, we talk about that every episode. It's like, right? I mean, is the band done? Is the band not? And we turn it into a 3-hour episode.
We make it a feast.
Right? And I think when I first got the article, I think you were the one who told me, shouldn't they have put this out a few years ago?
Yeah,
they could have been putting this out every year since 2016.
Right.
Is the band done?
Right.
Unfortunately, the band is definitely dormant. They're not doing anything.
Right.
The fact that, Dave can't knock on a door and be recognized when his own music is playing, and the fact that Eddie is taking pictures of other people and nobody knows who he is good for them that they can walk around in public now and not be mobbed. I guess that's the upside, right?
That's true.
But unfortunately, it's just another sad. I wouldn't say sad. Sad's not the right word, because I'm sure they're happy that they can go about in public and not be recognized. But like we've said before, in terms of their legacy and things like that, it's just not there. They're not curating it. So, of course, they're walking around and not being recognized, and maybe people don't know their music and things like that.
Right.
But honestly, I think it bothers you and me more than it bothers the band.
Maybe, that's for sure. Anyway, moving on, one little piece of vintage, unreleased Van Halen song dropped out of the sky. The alternative take of Running with the Devil came out of nowhere, and it leaked out onto the internet, containing an extra guitar extended solo and a different vocal take. Apparently, it was made from the original 4-track sessions mastered, and the track came from the same source who leaked the alternative take of Dance the Night Away a little while ago, and it was known as Groove Funkel's Second Helping on YouTube. What did you make of this, Dave?
Loved it.
Yep.
Because I'm starving for stuff like that.
That's right.
But as soon as it dropped out of the sky, it got sucked back up because it's gone now.
It's gone now. If you go,
it's gone. Right. So if anybody actually downloaded it from YouTube and has a copy, drop us a line and let us know.
Absolutely. There's also this interesting story that came out in the Washington Post about this author, Nancy French, who was interviewed by the paper about how David Lee Roth almost ruined her marriage. Now, this was interesting. Now, apparently, while living in New York City, her husband, named David, had a phone number that was David Lee Roth's old phone number. And all these women were calling for David. And this caused her to be suspicious about her husband's extracurricular activities. But after fielding a couple of calls from women, a manager called demanding that all work go through me. And when the man asked who she was, she said she was David's wife. And he said, "He didn't tell me about you. Are you pregnant? Are you expecting a little David Lee? A kid would hurt our comeback." So when she heard David Lee, it kind of tipped her off. Not many people are known as David Lee, obviously David Lee Roth. So when rumors hit, when Van Halen were getting back together, her phone started ringing with congratulations and invitations to exclusive parties, and at one point she even said she fielded a call from Roth's dad. So apparently Roth changed his number right before the couple moved to Manhattan. I'm assuming this is probably mid-90s. But he kept handing out his old number to the women he'd meet and forget to give his new one to the people close to him. I thought this story was hysterical. My God, what a journey, right? For that poor guy must have gone through all of that with the women calling. What did you make of this one, Dave?
Yeah, I felt bad for the guy, but I have to admit that was pretty funny that David Lee Roth is giving a fake number out to people.
Yeah, can you imagine?
And not giving the new number, like, to his manager, his dad, like important people.
Yeah. Well, Dave's got lots of things that Dave does. So, maybe it takes him 2 or 3 months before he starts handing out the new business cards. I thought this was hysterical, typical classic Dave. I mean, that's Roth in a nutshell right there. That's hysterical. Now, speaking of Dave, as you all know, we went to Vegas, and we're going to save all the talk about the show for the special segment that's going to take up most of this episode. But some of the press that Dave did leading into the opening of his residency, he spoke to Vegas Magazine, and he says, Las Vegas is no longer the Rat Pack. It's Journey, Aerosmith, and me. Gaga, rodeos, and UFC. So you got to always get a tasty quote from David Lee Roth, that's for sure. Now, in the Vegas Review Journal, he got a little more specific in regards to his Van Halen situation. He literally said, flat out, Ed's not doing well, and singing and dancing is a perishable skill. If you have the capacity, it's something that has to be used routinely, if not for the thrill of it, and the magic of creating with other incandescent spirits. So he flat out is now saying Ed's not doing well. What do you think he's doing by doing that? Why is he keep batting on that? I mean, if he's really not well, I mean, why would you keep pushing that button?
I'm thinking so we can get people to see him. Like, hey, listen, Ed's not going to be out there anytime soon. So if you want to see anything related to Van Halen, you got to see me.
Yeah, but isn't there a different way to do that? Can't you say, Van Halen's not up for touring? I mean, you don't have to come out and be like, someone's not well. I mean, it's...
Well, and the other thing is, I think all the rumors and the pictures and all the stuff we've been talking about for months are coming out. So I think he's basically like, hey, he can say it at this point because all this stuff is coming out, so he's really not hiding anything anymore. Or maybe he just doesn't give a damn. Like our last story. Hand out the wrong number, not tell anybody about it, no problem. And now he's just like, you know what? Ed made me wait a long time, so I'm not lying when I say what I say, so it's not like he's going to sue me for libel.
That's
so
true.
I'm just going to say what I say.
Right.
Bozy bop, bitty bop.
Speaking of saying more, Dave also spoke about his band. Now, we finally know who's in his band. We're going to talk about this right up front so you guys know who we're talking about when we get into the whole discussion. So, Dave's band has been revealed. He has Al Estrada on lead guitar, who is from the Van Halen tribute Eruption, Frankie Lindry on rhythm guitar, Ryan Wheeler on bass. He's got Mike Musselman on drums and Danny Wagner on keyboards. Now, Danny Wagner played with Warrant, so he has some of that cred there. And he says here, I have a band that took over a year to put together because we have real musicians really playing who can really interact with me. This has to be the spirit. There has to be the vibe, and there has to be the attitude. And he said that the set list will be constantly redefining during the night. So, what do you make of the announcement of the band, Dave? What did you think? We're not going to get into the details of the show because we're going to save that, but what did you think of this whole ensemble?
Well, we saw the ensemble.
Right.
The ensemble's good.
Yeah.
I like when he's like, I've been putting this together for a year.
Yeah, that's not true.
And we know, okay, as we'll get into, okay, maybe it took you a year, but you certainly haven't been practicing a year.
No.
And you had to scramble at the last minute to replace your guitarist.
Right.
So to imply like, he's had these guys for a year.
Right.
It's more of Dave's Bozy Bop.
Yeah, exactly. So Dave came out, he did his first show on Wednesday, the 8th of January, and he got a nice shellacking online for the way the show went. Dave and I weren't at that show, but we saw some of it online. We'll get into that in the whole Vegas section, but due to the